Why would my mother keep raw meat hanging in open air for weeks, or cook every meal in heavy iron never washed? For years the world said these were dangerous. Now scientists are calling them genius. At 65 I never stopped using these forbidden tricks, and my health is the proof. Today I'm opening Doña Benedita's notebook to show you the secrets that made my family strong. I look around at kitchens wrapped in plastic and fear. In my corner I keep mason jars of rendered tallow labeled in my mother's handwriting. My sourdough starter bubbles in a ceramic crock, a culture older than I am. Eggs rest in cloudy brine preserved in lime water, staying fresh for 8 months without electricity. My iron skillet, blackened by 50 years of daily use, has never seen soap that would strip away its protection. A health inspector came to my home, clipboard in hand, looking at my kitchen like a crime scene. She pointed at the tallow jars with horror. She saw herbs hanging from the ceiling and made notes about mold. She looked at my sourdough and explained that wild fermentation was deadly. She suggested I buy grocery store bread that crumbles in 2 days. I listened with a smile. When she left, I fed my starter and made a loaf that filled my home with aroma no store could replicate. My family was never sick. My children grew tall. My grandchildren have immune systems that don't overreact to common bacteria. Meanwhile, the neighbor who bought only sterile food started having joint pain at 40 and now takes 7 medications. The anchor is a notebook in a wooden box under my kitchen window. Doña Benedita's Caderno da Cozinha Proibida, her forbidden kitchen notebook, has pages yellowed like ancient parchment. The leather cover has absorbed decades of kitchen splatter. Handwritten pages contain drawings of herbs and meat cuts, instructions for salt curing, some folded so many times they're soft as fabric. Water stains and coffee rings mark the pages. My mother added her own notes in the margins. This notebook is not sterile or organized in modern categories. It smells like smoke and salt, and it contains more practical wisdom about food preservation and real nutrition than any contemporary textbook. The first ritual is rendered animal fat, tallow or lard, the golden substance that takes hours to prepare. Most people have never tasted food cooked in real animal fat because it was systematically removed and replaced with seed oils. But when you cook something in hot tallow, you understand something ancient about how humans are meant to eat. The fat has depth of flavor that's almost metallic and nutty, signaling to your body it has received real nutrition. When you make a crust on meat in tallow, it develops golden brown darkness that seed oil cannot achieve. Seed oil breaks down at high heat, creating oxidized compounds that damage the body. Tallow thrives. Only in the last 80 years, through marketing by seed oil companies, were we convinced it would kill us. The second ritual is the dry curing box, a wooden box lined with coarse salt where meat rests for weeks in cool darkness. The process is almost alchemical. You bury meat in salt, and over 2 to 4 weeks the salt draws moisture while preventing bacterial growth. The meat's enzymes break down proteins and fats into more digestible, flavorful compounds. When you finally remove the meat, it has been transformed into something that lasts for months without refrigeration. The salt box smells sharp and mineral. This meat ages with noble patience, developing complexity that packaged deli meat could never approach. The third ritual is the eternal sourdough starter, a culture of wild yeast and bacteria fed for generations, perhaps 100 years. My starter came from my mother, who received hers from her mother. Living things don't need freezing, they need feeding. I keep mine on my counter, feeding it every day or 2 with flour and water. It bubbles with a sour, yeasty aroma that is the smell of food being alive. Wild yeast and bacteria break down gluten, pre-digest carbohydrates, create compounds that enhance mineral absorption. Phytic acid in grains, which binds minerals, is degraded over time, releasing zinc, magnesium, and iron. The bread develops a thick, complex crust that crackles when you bite it. This is fermented food, medicine disguised as sustenance. The fourth ritual involves unlined copper cookware, where science and tradition intersect. Copper conducts heat with unmatched efficiency, distributing temperature evenly and allowing precise control. Copper is antimicrobial. When food is cooked in unlined copper, tiny amounts of copper ions dissolve into the food, and these ions are essential for collagen formation, immune function, and connective tissue health. The green patina that forms on copper is not oxidation that ruins the pot. It's a protective layer indicating the copper is working. My grandmother cooked in unlined copper pots, whose smooth interiors created a subtle metallic tang. Scientific papers are only now catching up to what Doña Benedita knew, that copper in food is necessary, that these tiny amounts are beneficial, that stainless steel was a downgrade. The fifth ritual is the liming of eggs, preservation of fresh eggs in calcium hydroxide solution. This requires no electricity, no additives, no refrigeration, and keeps eggs perfectly fresh for 8 months or longer. Eggs sit in ceramic crocks, covered in cloudy brine. Calcium hydroxide seals the shell, preventing oxygen and bacteria. You take fresh eggs, place them in the brine, and wait. 8 months later, they're still fresh, still viable, still whole. When you crack one open, the yolk is bright and deep yellow, the white is clear. Modern food industry prefers washed, refrigerated eggs that are weaker because they've been stripped of their protective bloom. But limed eggs teach us that food preservation is about understanding the conditions where bacteria cannot grow. They called it dangerous, yet my family was the only one that never got sick. Now scientists are catching up to Doña Benedita. I have digitized her entire Forbidden Kitchen manual into an e-book that contains not just recipes, but the principles behind these practices, the why as well as the how. It is in the pinned comment, free to download. The practices that were pronounced dangerous are now published in peer-reviewed scientific journals with reverent tones of discovery. Copper research comes from major universities. Fermentation research is funded by grants. Studies on organ meat nutrition make headlines. But my family has been living this truth for decades, while the official narrative insisted we were slowly poisoning ourselves. The sixth ritual is the deep nutritional knowledge of organ meats and their preservation. When I was a child, every part of the animal was used, and the most nutritious parts were treated as treasure. The liver, dense with iron, copper, and vitamin A in its most bioavailable form, was cooked carefully. The heart, rich in CoQ10, was sliced thin and treated with respect. The kidney and tongue that modern consumers discard were understood as the most healing parts. The fat surrounding these organs, the golden yellow fat from grass-fed animals, was rendered for cooking because it contained fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, K, in concentrations that grain-fed products could never provide. When I eat organ meat now, I feel the difference in my energy, my skin clarity, my sense of well-being. Real smoke curing is the seventh ritual, perhaps the most labor-intensive of all preservation methods. This is not liquid smoke or spray-applied flavor, but actual exposure of meat to hardwood smoke over days or weeks. In my mother's time, there was a smokehouse, a small wooden structure with a fire pit, with oak or hickory wood burned to produce smoke. The meat hung on racks, day after day, with smoke penetrating deeper, creating an exterior crust, while the interior remained moist and transformed. The smell of a smokehouse signals safety and abundance and preparation for winter. The cured meat that emerges has a flavor impossible to describe because it's so complex. This is not a fast process, and that's precisely why it works, because time is part of the cure. The eighth ritual is cleaning cookware with wood ash, something I learned from Doña Benedita's notebook that transformed my relationship with food safety. Wood ash from a hardwood fire is highly alkaline, naturally hostile to bacteria and fungal growth. You can sprinkle ash on meat or vegetables for a preserving effect. You can make a paste to scrub pots, and the alkalinity removes stuck-on food and grease while creating a protective layer that prevents rust on iron. The ash smell is earthy and mineral. When I clean my iron skillet with ash, I'm not destroying the seasoning, I'm strengthening it. This requires no packaging, no transportation, and has been almost completely forgotten in favor of toxic commercial cleaners. The ninth ritual belongs to the earth cellar, an underground storage space maintaining constant cool temperature and high humidity, perfect for preserving root vegetables through winter. My mother's earth cellar was dug beneath the old house, with stone and earth walls, always damp and cool. Vegetables stored there, potatoes, carrots, beets, turnips, parsnips, lasted for months, sometimes until the next harvest. They remained fresh and firm, their starches slowly converting to sugars, making them sweeter as winter deepened. The constant temperature meant nothing froze, but nothing warmed enough to encourage sprouting or rot. Some of my friends have now installed root cellars using passive cooling, and they report food lasts dramatically longer and tastes better than food from the refrigerator. The 10th ritual is the cast iron pan seasoning, built through decades of daily use. A cast iron pan that has never been coated with non-stick chemicals or stripped with harsh soap is not just a cooking vessel, it's a source of bioavailable iron. When you cook in iron, tiny amounts of iron molecules are released and absorbed by your body in a form it recognizes. The patina on a well-seasoned pan is almost black, the surface smooth and slick as glass. You don't wash this pan with soap because soap breaks down the oils. Instead, you wipe it clean while still warm, add a small amount of fat and put it away. Every meal adds another infinitesimal layer. People who eat from well-seasoned cast iron do not have the anemia that plagues the general population. Their blood is strong, their energy is sustained. The validation has come slowly, wrapped in the ironic language of scientific discovery. Peer-reviewed papers study the bioavailability of iron from cast iron, probiotic properties of fermented foods, the role of copper in immune function, the lipid profile of people who consume saturated fat from grass-fed animals. In every case, results confirm what Doña Benedita knew. Universities cite research with excitement about traditional food preservation methods, antimicrobial properties of salt, digestibility of long-fermented foods. But there is bitterness in this validation because it comes decades too late for the people harmed by official lies, convinced to abandon real food. The war on traditional knowledge was not incidental. It was systematic and profitable. The processed food industry, pharmaceutical industry, industrial agriculture, they all had financial motivation to erase knowledge that you didn't need their products. If you knew how to preserve food with salt and smoke and fermentation, you didn't need their preservatives. If you knew how to nourish your body with organ meats and bone broth, you didn't need their supplements. Health departments cracked down on home fermentation. Doctors said fat was dangerous. The word natural was co-opted. The word traditional became an insult. Doña Benedita's knowledge was simply unprofitable. I have lived at the intersection of these two worlds. I have seen my friends' energy decline as they age. Their joints stiffen, their skin dull, their minds grow cloudy. Meanwhile, I have remained strong, flexible, clear. I am 65 years old and have not had a significant illness in decades. I do not take medications. I do not have the chronic conditions now considered normal. My children, raised on food from my kitchen and Doña Benedita's teachings, are stronger than their peers. My grandchildren have immune systems that don't overreact to normal bacteria. This is not luck. This is not genetics. This is the result of daily choices made in the kitchen, using knowledge from that yellowed notebook, refusing to be convinced the old ways were dangerous. The irony is that I have lived the healthiest life precisely because I refuse to follow the health recommendations of my era. Doña Benedita's notebook is a bridge between the time when humans were stronger than their machines and now, when machines promise efficiency while creating dependence. The notebook contains not just recipes but a philosophy, a refusal to believe industrial production is superior to artisanal knowledge. When my grandchildren inherit this notebook, they will have felt in their bodies what it means to be nourished. They will have tasted food made with care and real ingredients, food that takes time. They will see their bodies working well, their minds clear, their immune systems resilient. Their strength will not come from pills or sugary beverages, but from food prepared by someone who loved them. I will never stop using these ways because I have lived long enough to see the price paid by those who abandoned them. I will continue to render fat, age meat in salt, feed my sourdough starter, cook in copper and iron, preserve eggs in lime water, tend the earth cellar, smoke meat over hardwood fire. This is not nostalgia. This is survival. This is practical knowledge about what keeps the human body strong. Doña Benedita's notebook is the truth that they tried to bury, and now it is yours.